Hey guys, my name is Kim. I'm the photographer of Kim Smith Photography, and for this tutorial I'm going to show you how I edited this photo completely from scratch, turning this one into this. So obviously there is a huge difference in the final result. You don't really see the background. It's a little bit more golden and just beautiful. So yeah, I will walk you guys through it. So the first thing that I do is get my raw photos. So the best way to shoot any photo is in RAW, not JPEG. That way you do have a little bit more leeway when you are editing it. And when you are opening up in Photoshop, you can open up the camera raw version. I will walk you guys through how to do it if this does not automatically open up for you. But first, since it is a little cool, what I'm gonna do is adjust the temperature to make it a little bit more sunsetty. I don't want to make it super yellow, but the end result is supposed to be a sunsetty photo. So I'm gonna adjust the exposure just a little bit. Gonna add some additional contrast. And adjust the highlight. I do love the shadows, so I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit. Add some of the white and adjust the blacks, and right here is what we have so far. And then I'm going to go right here for the HSL/grayscale. I'm going to make the yellows in the background a little bit more green, and also adjust the grain so you can kind of see there's a tiny bit of a difference in the background. Not huge, but it's there. I'm looking for the next piece. Oh, there we go. And then I already had some purple added, but yeah, just because my camera does have a little bit of purple around the edges, I do need to get a new camera because mine is like 6 years old, but I'll get there. So I'm gonna open up a duplicate layer. Off the bat, you can see that there is a little tattoo on her arm. I actually added this for her during her birthday party. I have my own matching version, but for this particular photo, we are going to use the clone stamp tool to remove it. And so I'm just gonna get some hair off of the chicken. And while I'm here, just look how cute this chicken is. Okay, so we got that. And there is a tiny bit of a bump right here on her nose, so I am going to remove that also. Okay. So, sorry guys, I am dealing with a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to be clearing my throat a lot. Okay, so off the bat, you can see that there is this chicken fence behind her. The reason why is they own goats and they own chickens, and goats like to explore. But I do not want this in the background. I want it to be where you don't see the ugly metal wires. So I am going to clone stamp tool this away. And this is not going to be perfect. It is not going to look completely seamless, and that's totally fine because in the end result we're going to smooth it all. But I do want to remove enough of it where you cannot notice the wire. So as you can see, I am just grabbing random pieces of the background and adding it in there. If there is a twig, I do try to add that to at least keep that seamless. But overall, I'm just trying to blend it in just a tad. And while I'm doing this, I don't know if you guys have ever petted a chicken before. This one is actually a silky chicken. And it is the cutest little thing. It makes some really creepy noises because I don't know about you guys, but for me, I thought like a chicken, they just make like the bok bok noise, but they make some creepy noises. So it's always fun to learn something new. And they are absolutely adorable. I don't know if I'd ever have any though. It's my own, but definitely cool to be around every once in a while. So you can see that it's finally starting to blend in a little bit. You can see the crisscross one in the background, but honestly it's not noticeable in the end result, so I'm not going to worry about that. And while I was shooting this photo, I was like, oh, this fence won't be too much of a hindrance, it'll be easy to remove. And then while I was editing, I was like, oh man, I regret this because this takes forever to remove, but it's fine. I'm a trooper. At least I like to think so. But we are almost done with one half of it. And as you can see, it's kind of sloppy, but again, in the end result, it's not going to be noticeable at all that there was a fence behind there. Um, Her mother, when she saw the photo, she was like, oh, I didn't know if this location would be the best because of the fence, but I don't even see it. It looks really amazing. And just like, thank you. I tried. So this by far is the easiest to edit, just getting rid of the tree, because I mean, it's not a bunch of different individual backgrounds, it's just brown tree. So it should hopefully speed up the process a little bit. And I can definitely use a bigger brush tool, but just I do want to make it look a little realistic. I don't want it to be completely randomized. But we are almost done. Okay. Actually, I might get rid of this part right here, but you can see that we got rid of the fence. I'm just going to connect some pieces of wood so it doesn't look totally crazy, but it's a lot better. Yeah, as I said, it's a little noticeable once you like do the before and after, but it's not nothing super huge. So we'll adjust that later, but I'm going to merge my layers and I'm going to open up a new layer there, and now I'm going to work on her hair and adding a tiny little smile because I love the little Mona Lisa smiles when I am photographing. I know some people, they're like, I want to see them smile, but for me, that's not my style because I think the resting face is beautiful. And of course, smiles are beautiful too, but when it's a little kid, especially, they're gonna be goofy, they're gonna do those fake cheese smiles, as I call them. And even if you don't know the child, the moment you see a cheese smile, you're just like, oh, okay, that's not a real smile. And I personally, it's not my favorite. I mean, I will definitely take some photos of them smiling, but I love the little regular face. And then I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of a smile. There we go. Okay, perfect. So now I am going to work on your eyes and making them pop just a tad. So I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and get it right here. And then I'm going to take my brush, put it about 12%, and then go under her eyes twice. And then I'm going to lower the opacity because I don't want her to look like a doll, but I also do want to get rid of a little bit of her sleepless night's eyes. And then I'm going to use my dodge tool. And the way I do this is I go over the whole eyeball once, then I go over the iris twice. And that's how I always do it for my photos, but depending on the light, I do sometimes vary. And then I'm going to use my burn tool and make it a little bit smaller. But I'm going to go over right here in her pupil. And then her eyelashes just to make them pop. So I'm going to do the eyelashes twice, the bottom lash once. Okay, so I'm going to do the full picture and gonna lower the opacity to where her eyes pop, but where she doesn't look like a supernatural creature. Okay, so now I'm going to give her a little bit of color on her lips and on her cheeks. So I got nice red color. I'm gonna go my paintbrush, do about 16%. Then I'm gonna actually, let me fix that. Okay, and then I'm just gonna paint over her mouth. And I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger and lower the opacity, and then give her a little red cheek. And then you can see it's kind of too much, so I'm just going to lower the opacity so it looks a lot more natural. And then merge those again. So right now this is our before, this is our after. And I am going to dodge the eyes of the chicken just a bit. It's not going to be super noticeable, but just enough where you're like, oh, that's a real animal. Okay, so now the super hard part is I shoot with a 1.8. Obviously, I do not have the best blur in the background, but I do want a blur like I have a $2,000 lens. So I'm going to go to filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but I usually have it at 34.6 pixels for the radius. You can definitely play around with it, but this is just my default. And then OK. And now I'm going to lower the opacity here, and I'm gonna go through and remove the blur from where I want it. You can definitely play around with this quick selection tool and do it how you'd like to, but I like to make things hard for myself. And I'm going to try to stay away from the edges on my first initial one because I do not want there to be a ring around her. And I will go back over that. And doing the before and after is a really good way to see where you missed it initially on the photo. And then just doing it real quick. Okay, so now I am going to lower the opacity of my brush and the hardness, and I'm gonna go in and work on the edges a little bit. The chicken is very poofy, so I definitely want to get its little, I don't know if they're called baby feathers for a chicken, but it's little feathers. And then I'm going to continue doing this all around her. I'm going to get the chicken's feathers, and then I'm going to get her hair to show off her baby hairs. Oh, and I missed that spot right there, so I got rid of that. And yep, just going to continue going all around. And then I'm getting the dress. Okay, so you can see there is a little bit of a halo behind her. And so what I'm going to do is lower the opacity of this just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to redo it, but just adjust the halo. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And then I'm going to make my eraser a lot bigger. That's a little bit too big. But I'm just going to go back here and there we go. You can see it helps it blend in just a little bit. Okay, so right now here is our before, here is our after. So what we're going to do now is do the light rays. So how you do that is filter, render, lens flare, and I always have it on the 105 prime. The light is coming from this side of her, you can see by the lights on her, so I'm going to put this off in the corner. And I do want a nice little brightness around here, so I'm going to get it to 161%. And what I'm going to do now is use my trusty eraser tool. And I never like this part, so I'm going to erase that. And then I'm just going to go over her so she isn't completely blurred out by the background. Okay, so I'm going to lower this just a little bit. And then I'm going to merge, go back to duplicate layer, and I'm going to burn the chicken because I do want it to pop out a little bit more, so I'm going to use dodge also. Just because this is going to add a little bit more details to its feathers and make it pop out a little bit more. And then I'm going to use the burn tool on her hair and then on this side of her face. And then use the dodge tool on this side. That's a little bit too much. You lower that just a little bit. On this side of her face. There we go. And then I'm going to just lower the opacity a little bit. So you can see the original, the shadows are here, the lightness is here, but I'm swapping that. The shadows are here, the light's right here. Okay, now I'm gonna merge. So far this is what we got. And I'm gonna go ahead and go into my layers again. So layer, new adjustment layer, and curves. Then I'm gonna take about the midpoint and bring it straight down. And then I'm gonna bring this up because it does add sort of a matte effect to the photos that I personally really love. And what I'm going to do is take my paintbrush and I'm going to go to the black color. I'll lower my paintbrush opacity and just kind of paint away some of the curve layer. Just play around with it a little bit until I get the effect I really like. So to add dimension, I usually make it a little bit spotty. I will not completely do one side. I will remove it a little bit here and there and add it here and there. So it does have a nice 3D effect. There is a little bit, there we go. So I'm going to do this a couple of times until I get the effects that I really like. But also what I'm going to do is go to filter, camera raw filter, and I am going to play around with a little bit more of this. Now that I have it edited, just to make the colors pop a little bit more. Merge these all together. And I'm going to pick a nice orange color. And this is my personal secret to how to get a beautiful golden background, but I'm actually just going to paint the background. And then I'm going to erase the color off of her because she is not orange. And then I'm going to get the chicken also. And of course, lower the opacity until it gets to a nice golden color that I really like. And you can see there is a little bit of a halo. So I'm going to lower my opacity and go in there and just get the spots that were initially missed. And this is not going to be 100% perfect. That's totally fine. Doesn't need to be, because we are going to blend it out where it is not noticeable. Duplicate the layer again. And now I'm going to go back in there and play with my curves just a bit more. And I usually do this a few times during the photos just so I can get some really nice dimension. And as you see, I mainly stick to erasing right here where the sunlight's coming from, and also her face. And I do want there to be not really much on her face or the chicken. And then gonna go to filter and then the camera raw filter again, and I'm just gonna add some more contrast, add a little bit less exposure, some more highlights, a little bit more shadow, a little bit more black. So that is kind of too much contrast for me, so I'm gonna lower that a little bit. And I'm gonna go to layer again and then brightness contrast. And then once I get to where I like, I'm gonna press Control I to invert it. And then I'm going to lighten her face a little bit just because I do want her and the chicken to stand out a lot more. And then of course, gotta lower the opacity. And here we have it. So here is the after, here is the before, and here's a little bit of an example of what we all kind of did to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and definitely take a look at my photography pages. I did also make this dress if you are into that, so I will link my dress link in the description also. And if you have any questions, I do have a Facebook group called Kim's Photo School that I have kind of neglected for a while just due to the fact that I was going through something and I did not have the mental capacity to pursue editing in the way that I wanted to. But thankfully, I'm starting to feel a lot more healthier, and I will definitely be posting there a lot more often. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and thanks for watching.